Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, morning, Michael.
How are you doing today?
Very good, sir. Yeah, thank you for hosting. I'm excited.
Oh gosh, no, thank you for all your hard work putting together all this great information for us. I know it's going to be an awesome webinar.
No pressure, no pressure.
Well, it ties in, and no spoiler alerts here, but it definitely ties into some previous work you've done and your previous book too, right? Which I think we'll touch on that.
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot of the stuff that I talk in here, I really outlined in 2015 to 2018 for the book that I wrote in 2019. So, but then there's been so much update and so much change, things I missed that I'll add into that, and then there's all the things that have been happening in the last year and a half, 2 years that are just incredible acceleration. So now I'm excited to dive into it. But
awesome, yeah, and that's very cool how 10 years ago almost you predicted what's to come in the future of digital marketing. But
yeah, it's funny because it's not that hard to predict if you I mean, like at least for me, I don't think it's not. To me, it's like once you understand motivations of all the parties and you understand the macro trends, predicting isn't actually that hard. And we're seeing that with analytic, like with AI right now, that prediction isn't that hard when you have a good amount of data. And so I pretty much saw this as a foregone conclusion. And I'll go into that more, but awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to have a discussion. I'm hoping we can have people, if they have questions, we could even share a link maybe and pop some other people into the video at some point if they want to ask questions, if we have time at the end. You can always
share.
Yeah. Hello,
hey, Kyle. Welcome, everyone. And as Kyle just did, feel free to drop your location of where you're joining us from in the chat. Really appreciate everyone hopping on the Digital Marketing Quarterly webinar for April. This is going to be a fun one. We'll get kicked off in just a couple minutes here once everybody has time to kind of get joined to the presentation.
Perfect. Can I ask a quick question, Michael? Can you hear vacuuming?
Please.
It's like...
No, I think I did hear a little bit of like ambient sound for half a second there, but it sounds pretty crystal clear on my end. So it sounds like they're doing a good job filtering that out.
Okay.
Kyle, thank you for joining us from Vancouver, Washington. Great place to be. Hopefully sun shining on your side.
Italy.
Hey, Umberto. Great to have you. Awesome. Great to have you joining from Italy. Very cool. Hopefully you
like all my Italian just escapes me. All my Italian really I saw that.
I don't even want to try.
I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna try it because I was like, when I went to Italy and I like had it down, I was like, and now I'm like, grazie mille. That's the only thing I remember.
I'll drop some Portuguese and it may connect. We may be able to. But I'd butcher that too, so I can't even go there. But great to have everyone. Going to be a fun webinar. And Kevin, are you thinking 10:05 getting things kicked off, or
whenever?
Okay.
I'll just follow your lead.
All right. Yeah, we got a few more joining in. Looks like from YouTube, and hopefully everybody is having a great morning. Hey, Andrew, Ben, awesome. You're out there. I'm trying to think of who else is in Bend. Max Prin is over there in Bend, another great digital marketer. So great to have you, Andrew. All right. Well, I think we're good, Kevin, and people can just shuffle in as you dig into the presentation. This is going to be a really fun one. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Digital Marketing Quarterly webinar, The Rise of the AI Concierge, How Digital Assistants Will Transform Experiences. We are thrilled to have you with us as we dive into the exciting world of AI, such a hot topic over the past couple of years, and its impact on customer experience and marketing strategies. I'm Michael Cortez, partner and marketing manager at Web4. I'll be your host for today's session, and great to see the attendees we have from various industries and backgrounds and all the different areas throughout the globe where you're coming in from. And thank you all for attending our Digital Marketing Quarterly webinar for the first time. Welcome to everyone that is here or catching it on the recordings. We're privileged today to have Kevin Getch, world-renowned digital marketer, a distinguished leader in the field of digital marketing. And Kevin isn't just the founder and director of digital strategy at Web4, but also an accomplished author. He'll touch on that some today. His book, Future Proof Your Marketing, provides invaluable insights into sustaining business growth through innovative strategies. With over 22 years of digital marketing experience, including working with Fortune 500 companies, Kevin has dedicated his career to enhancing how businesses connect with customers. His approach is deeply rooted in the principles of relationships, results, and ROI, which has guided his philosophy at Web4, helping businesses achieve remarkable success. We're going to be touching on a number of great topics today: how AI-powered digital assistants are redefining customer interactions and marketing, insights into major trends, practical examples and strategies. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Kevin to the stage and begin our journey into the future of AI and digital marketing. Welcome, Kevin.
Wow, thank you for that introduction, Michael. I appreciate it. And it's great to see everybody here. A lot of familiar faces. Tony, good to see you. And another Tony, Stephen or Stefan as well. The number of people popping in the chat. Really appreciate that. It's good to kind of know a little bit more about the audience, where you're from, and kind of level of where you're at. I'm going to be diving into a lot here, but there's so much more to cover. And so I'm definitely, when we talk about AI, there's going to be, it's a huge area. When we talk about all the areas that AI touches, it's a ginormous area. And so we're going to be focusing more on digital marketing, and I'll be touching on a number of other areas as well. So with that, let's go ahead and pop right in. Okay. All right. I think we're good here. So as Michael said, I want to really look at how AI and digital assistants are going to transform the customer experience, right? From a marketer's perspective, we really want to understand, how is this going to change the customer experience? Because that's going to change how we connect with the customer and how we develop our strategies in order to best connect with our customers. And there's huge changes happening and more to come. And so just the general kind of outline of what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to share a little bit about me. Some of you already know, and then some of you are new, so I want to share a little bit about myself. I'm going to go over the 4 macro themes. These are basically the high-level trends that are driving all the change. And when we have access to this information, we have these kind of perspectives to come from, it makes predicting outcomes that much easier. So we'll go into that. We'll also look at the impact of AI assistants, and how businesses are leveraging that, how it's already impacting the customer experience. I'll also look at potentially how it may be impacting the customer experience in the future. And we're going to give you some concrete examples of how to capitalize on the trend and some warnings of what not to do. So let's hop in. So a little bit about me. I founded Web4 back in 2009. I'm the CEO, but basically giving away the ownership of the company in the coming years. The goal is to give away 30% to the team and have them kind of take over and continue running the company going forward. So we have a great team of people right now that are kind of running the day-to-day. These are a little more than you probably need to know about me, but that's me when I was about, I think maybe 14 or 15. I was kind of came from a goth style, which a lot of people, when I talk to now, have no idea of all the different things you go through when you're younger. And I definitely went through a lot. So if you have teens that are going through, strange phases or different things, there's hope for them. Our 2 dogs, Blaze and Knox, my family. I'm very into martial arts. I've been doing martial arts since I was 12. That's a recent competition I did last year. I we called that guy Thor. Going against him was great. So, and then of course, as I mentioned, I'm the founder of Web4, and that's my work family. I get the honor of spending, the days with and kind of learning. And so these are the things that have really impacted me a lot in my life. I take a lot from my business aspects, my family aspects, and then martial arts. All those kind of come together to really form a lot of my perspective on where I kind of come from, the perspective I come from. So I wrote Future Proof Your Marketing in 2019. It was really from 2015 to 2018 that I kind of put a lot of the ideas together and published in 2019. But the whole concept I wanted to make businesses aware of is like, you need to have a strategy and these certain things in place now that will help you grow your business now with digital marketing and just marketing in general and culture and good business practices that are all part of that kind of marketing umbrella. But then also how important that is to prepare you for the artificial intelligence revolution, which I knew was right around the corner, right? And now it's like, oh yeah, a lot of people are going, oh yes, this is a real thing. And so this is a quote from the CEO of ZoomInfo. He's you probably, if you don't know ZoomInfo, huge company, one of the fastest growing companies, $1 billion company, but had some great things to say about my book when I first launched it. So, so let's dive in. I want to really talk about the macro trends that are driving change and how those help inform me as far as what I'm seeing and what I think will happen in the future. So in my book, for those, some of you have read it, I talked about the 3 Ps, right? I talked about personalized, that basically all these macro trends are happening, right? Our marketing is going to become more and more personalized, right? That we're going to be able to predict users' needs at a much higher rate. And users actually want us to be able to predict their needs, right? There's better, kind of connection there with the customer when you are actually aligned and they feel kind of this digital rapport almost when they're like, oh, wow, like they already touched on this. I had this question, it's right here. I had this concern, they address it here, right? So there's all those kind of like prediction side of things. And then there's the proactive side, which is the biggest fundamental shift we'll see in marketing from a macro trend standpoint in our lifetime. And what that means is we're going from a state of a reactive marketing where the user has to take an action to then get to results, then to go to a website, then to, follow you on social, all these different things that the user is taking action to do. But what we're doing, and it's a slow burn, so to speak, is we're going through a period of moving from a reactive state to a proactive state where the marketing is actually going to be proactive and be actually suggesting a lot more things that will be assistance to us, right? Things that will be helpful for us, things that products, services, of course, there's the whole marketing funnel side of things, but then just general day to day. And we're already seeing that in a lot of cases from just the notifications on your phone in the morning, maybe if you drive to work, or many of you maybe don't, that, hey, you might want to leave at this time because, there's some traffic or whatever it is. There's all these kind of proactive things that are predicting you and personalized to you. What I didn't touch on in the book as one of the macro trends, but I knew that there was going to be a lot of pushback, right? Because as we get more personalized, predictive, and proactive in marketing, there's going to be the consumer pushback side of things where privacy is going to become huge. And I didn't put that in there. And so that was a oversight on my part as seeing that as a core macro trend. And we've seen that over the last maybe 6 years now, like GDPR, all these other focuses on privacy. And it's a critical component, right? And I'll kind of dive into that a little bit more, but privacy is a critical component to making this work and making us as consumers want to adopt it. So I want to have you look at this from a certain perspective, because in my opinion, and what I asserted in the book, is that the goal of all of these companies is to basically become the best assistant you've ever had, right? And this was way back when I was like, my mind is very rarely in the now. It's always been kind of in the future. And so I'm always looking 5 to 10 years out. And so I was looking at that point and going, you know what, ultimately where this is going to go is these companies are going to want to build the best assistant ever, right? And so I want you to imagine for a moment that you had the best executive assistant ever, right? This person was on top of their game. They knew everything. They were there for you. You could count on them. They had a whole team of experts at their, that they could utilize at any time. And it just seemed like they knew everything. They could, so helpful and amazing, right? So now, if you had an executive assistant, would you want them to actually get to know your needs and personalize how they interact with you? Or would you want to just have them spit out things that maybe aren't even relevant to you, that aren't like, it's like they don't even know me, right? So if you were paying a personal assistant, you'd be like, or an executive assistant, and you're paying them, a good salary, you want them to personalize things to you. You want them to get to know your routines, right? You want to get to know you. You want, them to be able to be this extension of you to some extent and really understand you as your assistant and being able to support you in the best way possible, right? And so it's important to think about that from this concept when we're thinking about the macro trends and where we're headed with this. You'd also want them to be able to predict your preferences, right? I'm guessing, right? So if feel free in chat if you would or wouldn't, because I know some people will be like, I don't want them to know anything about me, but then you probably wouldn't hire an executive assistant, right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, if you were going to hire an executive assistant, you'd probably want them to be able to predict your preferences and needs in different situations, right? If you had a schedule conflict come up and you were in a meeting and that's going to run long, your next meeting, you'd want your executive assistant to automatically reach out to them and let them know, and then work on rescheduling that with them, right? There's different things that you'd want it to be able to predict to do in all these different situations. So now here's an important one, and it's a big shift, because I think this question is obvious when we're talking about a person, right? When we're talking about, we hired an executive assistant, would you want to always have to tell them what to do, or would you want them to be proactive, right? It would be pretty useless if they only did what you told them to do when you told them to do it, right? You want them to know you, you want them to be proactive, you want them to be able to go out and do things on your behalf, right? Because you've given them the permission, the agency to do so, right? You want them to be able to do those things within a certain context, right? So you have to kind of set limits and parameters, which is all something that will be important. But when it comes to digital or marketing or tracking us and things like that, proactive is very scary for a lot of people, right? You hear people all the time these days talking about, I was just doing this, I was talking about this, and then I'm seeing an ad for this. And it's like, even though that's not as proactive as what we will be in the future, it's still something that freaks people out, right? Because it's like, oh, they're tracking me, but it's like, yeah, they want to predict what you're doing because you were recently in Home Depot and now they're showing you an ad for barbecues because it's that time where people start buying barbecues. Now, here's the one I missed a little bit more, and it's such a critical component, and none of the others will come to full fruition without this. I think that's an important thing to realize, because if you had an executive assistant, would you want that executive assistant to share personal info about you with everyone, or be, keep a lot of information private, right? You'd want them to be able to share certain information about you, but then you'd want them to know that, hey, this is all private information and they shouldn't share that. If that trust is broken, then that assistant probably wouldn't be working for you anymore, right? And so I think a lot of the companies that are working towards, creating these assistants realize how critical and important that is. And so they're working towards improving privacy and making privacy at the forefront of everything they do, and giving you a lot of control over the information you share. The challenge is your average user doesn't know how to go in and do those things still. So I think in the future it'll be much easier. But so in 2019, I said this was an excerpt from my book. I said, in the next 5 to 10 years, we can expect digital assistants to become more and more like high-level executive assistants, right? Right now, we are in that stage of like, we have AI and large language models, and we're getting into the agent space where we're starting to see some more automation. But in the future, we'll have digital assistants that are more like high-level executive assistants.
This is not about replacing the human in the loop. In fact, it's about empowering. It's an assistant.
What? We're all getting assistance? It's an assistant. AI works for you night and day, tirelessly, and all you had to do was remember their birthday. That's all you had to do.
I had to put that one in there. It's too good, right? It's he goes off the rails on a number of other things, but so I think it's a good context to think about where we're going with this. Is that the ultimate goal is to be so valuable to you, and like imagine you had an executive assistant that took care of so much stuff for you. How amazingly helpful that would be. Now there's the other side of like, you also feel then there's certain things you wouldn't do as much, and there's a lot of other concerns there potentially as far as being beholden to that person and all that kind of stuff, right? So there's definitely concerns there. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the now, and talk about how the current acceleration of AI assistance is impacting businesses, how they're adopting it, how it's impacting the customer experience. So there was this Forbes advisor survey, and they looked at all the different businesses, and they surveyed them on it was not only how they're using it currently, but some of it was how they plan to use it with their business. So it's not like current implementation, but it's like, what are you currently doing and or planning to do in the near future, and how are they wanting to use artificial intelligence? So customer service was number one. Improving customer service, leveraging artificial intelligence. 56% of businesses are looking to leverage artificial intelligence to improve customer service. Then you had cybersecurity and fraud management was at 51%. That's a huge area to think about. Like, yeah, that's like insane, both on an opportunity side, but also understanding that you have to be more sophisticated in leveraging this as people become more sophisticated with AI on the other side as well. Digital personal assistants, right? So businesses are creating digital personal assistants, or looking to. About 47% of them plan to create personal assistants that would help. Now, these can be utilized for the external customer or the internal customer in different ways. Customer relationship management, so CRMs, being able to pull in data. ZoomInfo is actually a great example of this. They just launched a new tool called Copilot, which leverages AI to automatically collate all of this data about potential customers and what they're looking at, and bringing into the pipeline to improve the process and the sales aspect. And that's more on just the data side. Inventory management, like Home Depot is utilizing AI for inventory management. Everything from I was about to say screen learning, from just visual AI to be able to see products and understand what's everywhere, to actual data so that they can make sure everything's stocked. Content production, 35% of businesses. Product recommendations, right? Being able to leverage, that's been done for a long time in different ways, but it's just enhancing that ability as you see customers experience and look at the data of they bought this, also bought this kind of example, but then utilizing AI to take it a step further. Accounting, supply chain operations, recruitment and talent sourcing, and then of course audience segmentation, right? So there's a lot of different ways businesses are actually looking at either currently implementing it or looking at implementing in the future. So let's talk a little bit about how AI is currently impacting the customer experience. One of the number ones, and this is around both in the customer service and kind of sales side, is chatbots, right? Having instant messaging on your website can be much more effective at handling customers' needs quickly and elevating to live people to support as they go through, right? And that's like 73% of the touch points are improving through instant messaging, right? Creating a much better experience through that kind of digital assistant / chatbot that is more trained on your company's data. Emails is a huge component, right? So whether it's email marketing or how we do emails, it's a big part of how customer experience is improving. And then personalized services, kind of like product recommendations, right? That's helping us get better recommendations for products that we're looking for. Text messages, personalized advertising, and long form written content, as well as phone calls. I want to actually dive into a couple examples because Google recently at their cloud event talked more and really dove into this agent. So you can kind of see how they segmented some of their pre-trained agents in these different areas: customer agents, employee agents, people for the internal side, creative agents, data agents, code agents, writing code, security agents to help with security. So they're kind of aligned to some extent. You see what they're doing with what the demand is for as well. And so they're creating these somewhat partially cooked, partially pre-trained agents that they can utilize. One of my biggest frustrations from a customer service side has been phone trees. And I know all of you have had the same experience where you're calling up and you're like literally yelling representative into the phone. Well, maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I've been there and I'm like, representative. And they're like, can I get you through to, I need to do this. I don't have it, representative. And you're going through this horrible process, just really bad customer service. And then at some point you're representative. I actually had an experience recently that like blew my mind. And it was one of the first times I've seen AI in customer service succeed on a high level. I actually, my wife and I bought a Sleep Number bed a few years back, and they were doing a 0% interest over a few years or whatever. So we're like, whatever, we'll do that. We signed up for it, and it was with Synchrony Bank, was their company who financed it. And we were like, well, we'll just set up an automatic payment. We'll try to pay it off early. And so we paid it off early. And I was looking at my credit report and I saw it was still on there. It's been like a year since we paid it off or something like that. And so I just called the number on there. Literally within about 2 minutes, I called. They confirmed all my information, did some validation with text. This was all through AI. Pulled up my account, showed that I had a zero balance. They asked what I wanted to do. I told them I wanted to close the account. They asked a couple more questions. They closed the account, all through AI, all automated. Normally, it just, my experience has not been like that. And I don't know if anyone else, share in chat if I've had so many horrible customer experiences on the phone that it's insane. And so I think when AI gets it wrong, it's pretty bad. But when they get it right, that was seamless, right? And that's more of what I expect to see in the future. So I pulled this up because I thought it was hyper relevant. This is actually a kind of product for a company. This is from NTI Data, which is focusing on like a digital assistant within the vehicle space. And so they did an article, The AI Evolution of Digital Assistants and Enhancing User Experience. On the left-hand side, they talk about the AI companion. They're like, I'm your hyper-personalized interactive AI assistant. I discreetly and secretively learn and understand your needs as a customer, proactively providing value-added services in terms of mobility and ways beyond. Anytime, anywhere you need my assistance. So that's like the customer side, right? Aligns with our macro trends and topics that are important pretty well. And then here's the marketing channel side. I'm also a multi-channel or a multi-massive personalized contact channel for customers with opportunities to leverage, I can say that word, the potential of data. Providing a scalable, holistic ecosystem to build up strategic partnerships, actively providing relevant information regarding products and services, right? So this is a great example of what everyone's trying to create. It's a good kind of step in the right direction.
At Mercedes-Benz, we want to offer our customers an exceptional experience. That's why we're equipping our cars with high-end computers. Each car should only get better over time, just like a good wine. The power of Google Cloud and AI, we will make your experience even more personalized. And we are applying Google Cloud AI across a number of other use cases, ranging from a smart sales assistant, improving customer centers, and optimizing our marketing. The sales assistant, for example, helps customers to seamlessly interact with Mercedes, booking a test drive or navigating through Mercedes' offerings to find their next favorite vehicle.
I thought that was a good example of a company implementing at a high level. And it's about that intuitiveness, that feel of like they just know me, right? So when you create this seamless kind of intuitive experience, that's that predictive, personalized, kind of proactive coming in and creating rapport, because that's what customers want. They want to feel like you know who they are and you are looking to serve them at the highest level. And so when you come through in that manner, then they're like, oh, wow, they really get me, right? And you connect with that brand. It's like a digital rapport. So you can also build, like, one of the things people talk about is creating digital personal assistants. And when OpenAI first came out, I created I basically created a chatbot leveraging OpenAI. It was Chat GPT 3.5 Turbo at the time, and it was something I tuned and created and like went through and had people try to break it and hack it and like see what it could do. And it really wasn't ready to be utilized in that way. It was phenomenal when you asked it the right questions. Where it really fell down was when you tried to hack it or ask questions that weren't relevant. So it was really poor at that. And so you had to do a lot of training, a lot of manipulation to get it to not say a lot of things, right? And so that was bad and not something that enterprise companies can adopt. So when Vertex AI, which owned by Google, is on Google Cloud, launched their new agent platform, I created a chatbot on there as well. And one of the cool things about that was after you kind of train it, so I'm not going to get too technical here, but when you train a chatbot, there's different ways you can train it, right? There's fine tuning, there's leveraging like embeddings or like creating a vector database. And so what I did was I created a vector database of all of the content on the Web4 website. And I said, hey, I want you to use this, and then like a search engine, look at these information and see if it meets a certain threshold score based on the query and relevance, then leverage this as kind of the foundational information along with the query to answer the question in an appropriate way. And it worked phenomenal at that. Like, it was really, really good. And then we expanded and we created a corpus of content with frequently asked questions and things like that, and helped train it even more. So that was really cool. And so with Vertex AI, the cool thing I like about them is it's more enterprise ready. It's more like they won't talk about anything not relevant to your company or content, which I'm sure OpenAI maybe already has adopted that or will be soon. And so I trained it, but then I gave it a voice because I was like, I want to call and talk to it because I'm much more an auditory kind of person. I like to talk. I don't like to type as much. And so here's my experience. After I did it, I created a phone number, I gave it a voice, and I called it.
Hi, welcome to Web4. How can I assist you today?
Yeah, I wanted to find out a little bit more about the services you offer.
Great. We're a digital marketing agency that specializes in helping businesses grow their online presence. We offer a wide range of services, including SEO, SEM, social media marketing, content marketing, and web design. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about our services?
Yeah, I am curious how you guys approach marketing strategy for small businesses.
We take a holistic approach to marketing strategy for small businesses. We start by getting to know your business, your goals, and your target audience. Then we develop a customized marketing plan that includes a mix of online and offline marketing tactics. We track your results and make adjustments along the way to ensure that you're getting the most out of your marketing investment.
So that's just kind of shows you, like, there's obviously some issues with it as far as like the delay in voice, which can be fine-tuned, and there's things I want it to do better. Like I'm gonna change it so that it can automatically schedule appointments, that it can do a number of different things, and make sure that it routes people in the right direction more appropriately right out the gates. But then it's making sure we're getting the answers, and then it can follow up. If it can't reach this person, it can reach this person, which will save our person a bunch of time on the front end, right? So it'll just save a ton of time and be super helpful, answer questions, and all kinds of things like that. So it's pretty amazing what can be done without, like, I'm not a data scientist. I'm not, deep level of machine learning and large language models and all that kind of stuff, but I can still leverage those tools to implement and create efficiencies within organizations, which is one of the huge opportunities. So great segue. And how can you take advantage of these advances really, and position yourself for success in the future. Because I think a key thing I heard someone say, and I don't remember who it was out the gate, but they said AI isn't going to replace people. People utilizing AI are going to replace people who aren't. Right. So and while that statement's good, I won't say it's 100% accurate. There's definitely going to be job losses because of AI, but people who are utilizing AI are going to be the ones in demand that are getting the jobs from that standpoint. So I think it's important, first and foremost, don't fall in this is what I see a lot of businesses do, is this consistent loop where they just they're chasing the next tactic, they're chasing the next tech, and they kind of go in this trap where they just fall down the rabbit hole and they go all through all this stuff. And then later they're like, okay, well, that's been a year, and what do I have to show from it? Right. And so I think first and foremost, you should buy my book. No, I think first and foremost, you should have a strategy. And so if you haven't bought my book, it's super like condensed. It's like maybe 140 pages. I would suggest having that so you have a base framework, but I'll give it to you so you have the base framework. And then if you want more context, you can go in there and kind of get it. And if you can't afford the book, let me know. I'll send you one or give you a digital copy or something. So very simple strategy framework. Everything starts from this kind of foundation, right? So, and this will be more and more important the more we implement technology and leverage AI and all these different things. Your company, your brand, the way it stands out, the way you know your customer so well and connect with them is going to be the differentiating factor for your business. So number one is know and love your customer, right? This is about 80% of the work of having a good strategy, is really understanding the customer at a deep level, right? Because most businesses think they understand their customer, but they don't. They don't really know what's driving them. In fact, if they're doing surveys with their customers, chances are the customer doesn't know what's driving them. They're saying that if you're going off the information a customer provided, you're going off the 5, maybe 10% of conscious information that they're giving you, that they know why they purchased your product. There's the 90 to 95%, which is more subconscious driven of why they purchased your product. And so you need to really understand them at a deeper psychological level, why they make purchases and why they choose you over someone else, or why they choose someone else over you, right? And then when I say love your customer, I'm really just talking about when you have a lot of gratitude and really want to serve someone at the highest level. It's a joy to continue improving. It doesn't mean there's not challenges, but it's like you really want to serve your customer at the highest level. That shows through in everything you do. That's 80% of like a great company. If they have that down, that's like 80% of a really great strategy. The other part is aligning your strategy, right? So this takes a lot of work, but it's really like, here's all the information, you know, everything, you know what resonates with your customer. You start testing that messaging to objectively understand what actually resonates, what gets them to take action, right? And then you align your strategy around that knowledge, right? Your channel mix, everything you're doing, making sure that the questions that they have, you're addressing those. And then you want to have your finger on the pulse of your customer. You want to monitor, measure, and adapt because things are constantly changing. Technology is changing, customers are changing, their needs are changing. When we have some of the customers who had this in place when COVID hit, it was interesting to see how much more easily they adapted because they knew what they needed to do, which was, I need to understand how my customers' needs are changing during this time and how I can adapt to serve them, right? And so, but the same thing's happening right now in a big fundamental shift that's like industrial revolution, but condensed to maybe a 10 to 20 year period. So that's just your simple strategy framework. This is a little more context. I'll touch on this briefly so that and then if you have questions, I'm happy to go into more detail, but this is kind of like one level down from that strategy framework of like high level. Here's kind of what does that mean as you get into it, right? And there's a lot more about the customer that isn't really in here as far as like understanding them, but that's why the customer's in the center. And then brand and story alignment, right? You need to have a well-defined brand, a story that really connects with your audience and gets them to take action, people buy and I think it was Simon Sinek that said this, but it might have been someone else, that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? And so your story is a way to really bring that across. your messaging, your unique value proposition is aligned that in a way that communicates value. It communicates in a way that emotionally connects with your customer and helps get them to take action, right? It allows them to see a better future with your business, product, or service as part of that, right? And that's really what you're trying to do, is you're trying to paint a picture of how their future will be better with you in it, right? You or your product or service. Your websites, your platforms, they're optimized and aligned with your brand, identity, customer needs, and you're constantly iterating to improve those. You have an integrated channel mix. So you're aligned, your channel mix and prioritization is aligned with your customer behavior and organizational objectives. Right? You need to not just go in one area because it's like, oh, my customer spent a lot of time here. It's like, well, if that doesn't actually drive revenue for us, we need to know that as well. So we need to kind of balance organizational objectives with customer behavior so that we can create a proper channel mix. Your primary channel should have more in-depth strategies just for that channel, right? So if, let's say, search is a primary channel, you need to have a detailed document outlining what you're doing to do that and make sure that you're constantly iterating and improving that. You need to have feedback loops in place. I touched on that a little bit, but you need to keep your finger on the pulse of your customer. For us, we do most of our focus is on the external customer, but we've done a lot of work on the internal customer as well. So businesses that are really looking to recruit and retain great talent. So there's different aspects of that. And then PPP improvement. You can see I like to use the same letter. It's easy to remember, but product, process, and people improvement. So it's this constant iteration of how are we improving the process of doing these things, because that's a big part of your strategy. And then, of course, attribution modeling. You want to have a multi-attribution modeling mix that will allow you to really understand your results and how different channels are interacting. When you have this, the tactics are hard, and that's the day-to-day work that you're doing to make those happen. But without this, everything else, it's kind of like you can run really fast, but if you're running in the wrong direction, you're not going to get anywhere, or not going to get to where you want to go. Now, as digital assistants become more mainstream, and this I think you'll see, actually by the end of this year to next year, we'll see, because usability is an issue still currently, it's more early adopters that are leveraging a lot of these things. Voice search is big by a large means, but as far as like it being a high quality assistant that is really like, oh my God, this saves me so much time and it's so convenient and I just love this, right? That's going to probably be in the next 2 to 3 years that we're going to see that really get fleshed out. And so that's a big shift. And an interesting part of that is the foundation. People in SEO are positioned really well to take advantage of that because it's what we already do. And it's just going to be a layer on top of that, right? So when you're optimizing for digital assistants and voice search, these are kind of 4 core things. There's a lot more that goes into this, but your keyword research and content strategy, right? If that's aligned with your customer and you're focusing on long tail informational keywords, as well as conversational keywords and how-to queries, that's going to really be some of the core areas that voice search and digital assistants focus on and surface. You also want to make sure you're optimizing for the feature snippet, like position 0. You want to be the answer to the question when you can. And you can do this by writing in a conversational style, answering questions directly, right? Not like burying it way at the bottom, but answering it and structuring your content to make sure you're trying to capture those featured snippets. And that way you're tracking that, you're seeing what feature snippets are out there, which ones get traffic, and you're going after those in a way because it's like, oh, my customers are answering these questions. I want to be part of that journey, right? And that's really part of like understanding the customer journey and their behavior so that you can do a gap analysis and understand where you have opportunities to improve and show up more in that customer journey. You want to optimize your local presence. From a local SEO standpoint, it's big on digital assistants. If they're looking for a local business, they're going to look at local directories. Google Business obviously is huge. Other directories like Yelp, which, like Siri can use Yelp for some of their digital assistants. Driving reviews and attracting local endorsements, right? So driving more reviews is huge. A lot of people who are looking for a company are maybe saying, hey, find me a restaurant with really good reviews. Or they're saying, find me a restaurant that offers gluten-free bread or pizza. And it's like, a lot of that stuff, you should be adding that information, but a lot of it's also touched on in reviews, which reinforces it. And endorsements are everything like just people mentioning your business to linking to your business that help basically from a kind of a PR and SEO standpoint, drive the relevance and brand of your business locally. Technical SEO and user experience is also critical for this. So you want to have a fast loading, mobile friendly website. You want good technical SEO, and leveraging schema markup are all key things for voice search and optimizing for digital assistants. So I wanted to kind of give you some of that context. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about this, because I think this is huge, and it's really cool to see this. But so let's say you wanted to create a digital assistant for your brand, right? A lot of our customers that are following our advice as far as creating a comprehensive strategy, understanding the customer's needs, and really developing out the value and the content that they're creating in such a way that it addresses all the different points across the customer journey, right? If they've done all this already, optimizing a digital assistant for your brand is actually so much easier, because you have an existing corpus of content to train your digital assistant on that is in your voice, that is, something you've gone through and created, right? But if you want to create a digital assistant for your brand and you are just like, oh, well, you're going to have to train it. And there's ways to tune it in a way that, like I said before, is kind of more like what it was before, where it's going to answer some questions well, but then it's going to do some things bad. But if you want it to really speak in your voice, if you want it to answer questions as you would, you need to give it that content as a way to train on that and do that. And what's cool about that is you can now use your website in a lot of different ways as the foundational kind of training model. And then you can create other databases. You can do a lot of different things where you can create a lot of content examples and upload that, for instance, if they're not in there, or these are more like, if you want to create an assistant that's for your internal organization that's not on your website, it's all private information. You can use documents, you can use databases, you can use spreadsheets. There's different things you can do to train your digital assistant so that you're making the information more easily accessible and more user-friendly. And so I thought that was really cool. And Gemini created this image for me when I asked it to create I forget what the prompt was exactly, but it was something along the lines of create something that symbolizes a digital assistant and the amount of knowledge that it needs to be trained on. And it came up with this, and I was like, that's perfect. So it's pretty cool, the things you can do these days. You also, from a business standpoint, I think what's huge is you can explore areas for leveraging AI and automation, right? So we help a lot of our clients automate different aspects of sales, marketing, and customer service. And we may be getting into the operations side more as well, just because it's like something we already are doing in a lot of ways, where we're helping automate some of these different aspects, right? So there's simple things like when someone fills out a marketing form, like if they're an interest form, for example, you can automatically do research and pull that information into your CRM. You can automatically send a more informed automated response to them as opposed to just your initial response, right? There's tons and tons of things you can do operationally. There's so many things that you can do to go through and just look at what are the tasks that I'm doing currently that can be automated, right? How can I improve this experience? And having your team members kind of write out some of their tasks and say, hey, these are things that I think are potential to be automated. So I do want to touch on a little bit on what I see coming, and I have already touched on a little bit, but for those of you, some of you, if you know Moore's Law already, if not, I'll give a brief explanation. Moore's Law is basically the idea that compute power doubles every 2 years. And so it's been doing that consistently for like 50, 60 years. And this is kind of a great trend done by Epoch that is tracking everything. And then it was actually tracking machine learning systems. And so all these little things are machine learning systems over the years that have been created, from probably like Ada, I'm guessing around there, to different elements all the way up to like Gemini Ultra and AlphaGo and, OpenAI and ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff. Well, you can see here, we went off of Moore's Law maybe around 2010, and then we took this huge exponential kind of leap around maybe 2015, and we're on this like huge cycle as far as computational power. The biggest limitation for a lot of these systems now is energy, right? And so we'll see energy, and we're already seeing some cool innovation in energy like fusion, but solar and other things are going to be needed a lot more to power the amount of computational and data that some of these systems go through. So it's a really kind of interesting to see the historical context and then see the shift up to where we are at now and where that's going to go. And then these are some of the different large language models, and it's kind of like an evolutionary tree to some extent of seeing which ones are decoder or encoder only, or encoder decoder, and like the different models and how they've kind of grown over time, and all the different companies that go around. So you can see there's tons and tons, like Claude from Anthropic. You got GPT, of course. GPT-5 is rumored to come out maybe this summer or by the end of the year. You have Bard, which is now Gemini. You have Llama, just launched another version, I think 3.0, which I just saw they announced that they're using Google Search and Bing to provide part of the results, which I thought was interesting. So this kind of gives you a little more context as well. And this is what I see as kind of like some of the foundational evolution of digital assistants. Obviously, you had, back in like 1970 was the personal computer, and AI. Some of the foundations of AI happened even before this, when it comes to it, and everything you kind of think about from the conceptualization of AI to where we are now. But so you had the personal computer in like 1970, 1983. You had internet to the public, not like DARPA or anything like that, but you had some internet prior to that, but actual public internet was around 1983. The web really was around 1989. And so you can see just in the last, 35 years or so, there's been this huge mobile, like 1992 was, and that wasn't even really good smartphones yet. And then as we really get in this age, now we're at the present time. I want to kind of give you this context is what I see us in this kind of phase is what I would call agents. We are in the beginning evolution of agents, where what I mean by that is you have these large language models. They're good at answering questions, but they're not good at multitask or follow-up kind of things. You can create multi-prompts and things like that help with that, and you can leverage different agents. And a lot of the agents that have been done now are more of like a parsing if this then that kind of series where it parses out and creates multiple prompts and then creates multiple follow-ups. And it's a very simplistic agent, but we're starting to see more complex agents come out. It's still very fragmented. It's much more complex, right? And so right now you have a lot of early adopters. Like I've leveraged agents, and I probably say maybe 1% of the population has probably actually leveraged agents to do like multitask work for them, where it's an agent leveraging an LLM that is kind of able to do some tasks on your behalf or something like that. Where I see it going, and this is, I would say, massive acceleration in the next 2 to 3 years towards this, but I'd say definitely by 2028, 2029 at the latest, the assistants that we'll have at that time will be more like the executive assistants that I was talking about in the beginning. These will be much more consolidated. They'll be connected with a lot of your different tools, your platforms, your channels. I mean, if you think about it now, you already have some of this with like your email it's filtering out spam. My calls, because I'm on a Pixel phone, my calls, the assistant handles a lot of my calls. We'll answer my calls, we'll talk to them, we'll take a message, whatever, right? So it's like there's certain things that are already kind of being done. It filters out calls based on certain information, puts certain calls through, kind of like an executive assistant. But I can't go and say prompt and then say, hey, could you do this, this, and this, and oh, by the way, this, this, and this, and then understand that and do anything with it and like interact with my calendar. Though Gemini can do some pretty cool things with your calendar now and emails and pull some stuff up, which is pretty cool. And you can start to do that if you connect on ChatGPT and other things as well. So consolidating, I see the future of that being more consolidated, meaning a lot of the fragmentation will come through and we'll come to kind of more specific models that work and are focused on. It will not be so fragmented where it's like, I have to use this model, this model, and this model. You'll have an executive kind of assistant that has access to many different specialized assistants, right? So if you want experts in different areas, you'll have expertise in health. You'll have expertise in these areas. And you'll be able to ask those assistants and they'll be able to access that information. Now, of course, there'll be the base free level and you'll have the paid level and all that kind of stuff. Just like you'll see that with a lot of large language models right now. But it'll be much more simple. You'll have a conversation to set it up. We'll start a conversation just like I would with anyone to ask questions. How do you want to interact? What privacy settings do you want? It'll be really easy to set up. And as the user experience becomes much more easy to set up, it'll become much more mainstream, right? And so as we see the mainstream adoption, which might be a little delayed from the advancement in the technology, I'd say. There's usually a little bit of a curve there. But I think that's where I see it going. And I want you to understand this concept because I think it's critical for marketers. Digital assistants, just like an executive assistant, is the gatekeeper to the executive, right? People generally don't get straight through to the executive. They have to make it through the executive assistant. They have to convince the executive assistant that it's valuable to talk to this person, or they have to have some existing relationship or something going on there already where the executive has told the assistant oh yeah, that person should always, come through, always send them through, whatever it is. But our digital assistants will act also in similar ways as a gatekeeper. So from a marketer standpoint, people who do email marketing already experience that with email, right? A lot of your stuff, it might go to spam based on how it's sent, based on the trustworthiness of it, based on the content, all those different things. But different channels, right? Digital assistants will be able to interact with those different channels. It's literally your bot talking to my bot, your digital assistant talking to my business website, content, digital assistant, and determining if there's a good fit there to explore more information and what to surface to the executive person, right? So in this case, that is a major shift. But what's cool about it from a marketer's perspective is as we move more towards proactive, we'll see a period of volume decrease for a period of time, but then we'll see a volume increase because we'll go from a reactive state to a more proactive state, which it'll be kind of hard to quantify some of this because right now we don't want bot traffic, but how will we look at that traffic in the future? There'll be some of those kind of things, but it will actually be something that's doing a lot more searching on behalf of the user a lot more often and looking at different things based on something that the person said, because they're like, oh, I'm thinking about maybe taking a trip to Vegas and I want to go watch the UFC. I think that'd be really cool. And it's starting to plan and understand all those things so that it could provide that assistance. And it may just surface that information and say, hey, if you're wanting to do this, tickets go on sale at this date. I looked up flights. There's hotel, you can use your points and all that kind of stuff, right? Like a good executive assistant would. But I think this is a fundamental thing that a lot of people should understand. And I want to really quickly play this video because I think it's Sam Altman himself kind of, I think, solidifying a lot of this for you.
The long-term differentiation will be the model that's most personalized to you, that has your whole life context, that plugs into everything else you want to do. It's well integrated into your life. The long-term difference.
All right. Oops. I gotta go back here somehow. Bam, there we go. All right. So I know I went over a lot. I got it right before 11. If people still are around and want to ask questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. But yeah, it was good.
Amazing, Kevin. Thank you so much for that enlightening presentation. As Kevin mentioned, we'll now move into the Q&A session. You shared so many great insights into how to integrate AI into your business, your workflows, your processes. And as you kind of mentioned, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. The technology is only going to grow and become, exponentially more powerful from here. So, so many things I'd love to dig into there from your presentation. We did already have one Q&A from Umberto. Let me drop this link into the chats. If anybody would like to join us live and ask questions to Kevin in real time, please click that link and you can hop on and ask your questions in real time. If not, we'll be going over them shortly here. And looks like you were popping up a follow-up question from Umberto. What would you consider as key points in terms of data to provide in order to create an AI system that works well? So Kevin, I'll hand that to you. I'm guessing a key goal is understanding.
So was this the first question, the touching on the point?
That was actually, yes, that was part one. And then there was a follow-up to part one. So touching on the point of customer experience for subject matter experts, developing their own systems to improve operationality and understand to provide better their customer experiences. What would you suggest? Use tools out there, the public facing aspect of that data, or maybe use clouds, Azure, AWS. But Umberto did have a follow-up to that saying he made a mistake. He meant the fact that creating own systems might be quite expensive. So as an alternative, what would you suggest to that?
Gotcha. I'm forgetting the name of the open source platform where you can actually, and that's still really expensive. Starts with an S. Simplet. No, Synchron. I can't remember the name of it right now. But so I see companies like Amazon AWS Cloud and Google Cloud and those companies being your best option in many cases. Because the cost to do so many of these things yourself is so astronomical, and they've set it up in such a way that have more recently, I'd say literally in the last few months, has really kind of took another step up to where it's enterprise level ready. So like literally the chatbot I created that in a few days, just with some free time, like on and off, creating that. And then I connected the voice and I did some other things. Building that platform, I was able to integrate the website and have it train on the website. I was able to upload the database. In most cases, preparation of all the data is going to be one of the most time-consuming aspects. That's why I was saying, if you're able to already be in a place where you've really created a solid, you set up a strategy, you understood the customer, you created a really solid corpus of content that is, already working for you in so many different ways. Now it's like putting it to work for you in another way. Just, it's like, okay, now we can use this to train and build this kind of this system, this AI agent or whatever it may be. Then like that's huge. But like Vertex AI, their agent platform, they have pre-built agents and so many workflows already set up in there. There is some complexity to it for sure. And I wouldn't say like, I often think that, anyone can do anything, but there's certain people that they're going to take to it and certain people who aren't. Amazon, I haven't used theirs as much, so I'm not as sure on that point. But creating your own systems is way too costly for your average company. Right now, I mean, you have tools like that you can. So one of the things I'm looking at is like, here in a perfect world. So one of the services that we're starting to do or looking at and investigating and doing with some businesses is like creating these AI agents that are trained on all their data, right? So it's like now you have this AI agent that is trained on your website. You can utilize it in different ways. It doesn't have to just be a chatbot on your site. It can be a chatbot on your site. It could be leveraged for internal training. It could be leveraged for sales training. It could be leveraged for customer service, like on the phone. It could be leveraged in a series of automated tasks where it's leveraging your voice to inform content creation so that your content's in there. So it's like when you're creating these automated tasks where it's like, and there's different platforms. There's platforms like Make and Workato, and there's your standard things like N8N and some of the other ones that are just like simple. What's that?
Moonlight's another no-code platform.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these platforms that are set up in a way where it's like you can connect them, and then you can connect your API from your agent that you created. And so now, rather than just using a generalized Claude or Llama or Gemini or ChatGPT, it's using your customized GTP or using your trained agent that's trained on all your content, right? So it's like you then implement that into your automated workflows so that when you're creating content and you get that all ready for like approval, or however you want to do it, that it's actually like just not generalized like everyone else. It's customized to you and your business. So hope that answers some of the question. If I missed anything, let me know.
Yeah, and I think that kind of did a pretty good job on part 1 and part 2. Looks like we have a question from Tony. Hey, Tony. Thank you for joining us today. What are a few tools or services you might suggest companies take a look at to get us started with their digital assistant journeys?
Oh, man. So there's a ton out there, and there's new ones popping up all the time. And I would say it depends on the use case that they're doing. I'd say if it's a small business that's like trying to do it for themselves, something like Mind Studio would be, it's uai.ai. Mind Studio is a pretty good option where you can create, like, you don't have to do some of the more technical aspects. It's pretty easy to do without a platform like that. But like it makes it much more simple and like puts it all in there, and then you can add additional actions in there. And so that way you can kind of create your own assistant. And one of the cool things I like about it, like I used Mind Studio to create I just literally uploaded the document of our employee handbook, and I created an agent that was trained on our handbook so that you could ask it a question and it could provide an answer. Because I wanted to see, well, how could this be used operationally internally? So there's different things like that you can do. So Mind Studio is a great one. Vertex AI, while more complex than Mind Studio, has one of the things, and I mentioned this before, but when you start into creating like an agent, especially like if it's customer facing, and you create this agent, the challenge often is curtailing it to just focus on your specific area of expertise, because you're basically taking this 3-year-old with no identity but knows the world's information. They don't have a lot of perspective, and then you're saying, hey, go talk on behalf of my company. And you can curtail it and train it to a certain extent and kind of limit it down and give it an identity and goal and all that kind of stuff. But it still can sometimes answer other questions when it like I had people trying to break my chatbot, asking it questions to create code. It created code for them, and things I didn't want it to do. And so I had to like curtail that. With Vertex AI, they're a little more enterprise ready. They're like, once you train it on a corpus of data, however you want to do that, whether it's, Data Studio, whether it's, a spreadsheet, whether it's your website, whether, whatever it is, it doesn't really stray from the topic. It'll just automatically say something like, I'm sorry, I don't know a whole lot about ice fishing in the Atlantic. I focus on digital marketing, whatever it is, right? Whereas other chatbots would answer that random question, which might seem helpful, but it's also charging you every time like people are messing with it and all that kind of stuff because you're paying for that. So there's a few, there's literally tons and tons of different tools. There's what I find interesting is not just the digital assistant, but like creating agents, and then creating agents that actually work together, which is like the next level. Is like, it's like I have an agent I've trained to automatically look at all this data, analyze it, surface the trends, pull up that information to the top and say, hey, these are the things that I think we should be talking about based on all the information you provided. And the next agent then comes in and says, okay, I'm going to start creating examples of types of content to send to our, content manager to then look at and go, okay, these are things that sound good. So it's like a automated brainstorming tool that sends it through, and then you have the human in the loop that is looking at that information and saying, oh, this is great, and can make changes, or this is not great and can do that. And actually, I haven't played with this yet, but Vertex has RLHF, so reinforcement learning with human feedback. So as you go through like a training phase, you can set it up so that you're providing human feedback. And example, actually, I found that to be much more like, as you go through and you use examples, you can import those examples, and it starts training the agent on how to basically, like, here's a chat example that was stellar, let's use that. Here's another chat example that was stellar, let's use that. And it starts further training the agent on it. So anyways, hope that helps, Tony.
Awesome, Kevin. Very, very detailed answer. And Umberto had a follow-up question pretty much related to, and I think you probably touched on this, but maybe you have a little more to add. What tools do you recommend for AI agents, chatbots? I mean, you mentioned Vertex. You mentioned May.
Yeah. Mind Studio, Vertex. There's tons of different ones, but one of the things I'll say is, depending on what your goal is, different LLMs are going to be slightly different, and they can be tuned to be different in different ways. But you already probably know, like ChatGPT is like creative, artistic, kind of flowing, can say things in such a sensational, artistic way that it's like, okay, I can't use that for like writing my emails. Gemini, phenomenal for writing your emails, because that's part of the data they were trained on, most likely. Right. So it's like really good in a professional standpoint and much more focused. Their temperature level, if you understand the different levels of how you can kind of temperature setting on an assistant, is like creative, where they may get more stuff wrong, to less creative, where they may get stuff where they're more likely to just share accurate information, like probability of high accuracy, right? So there's this kind of temperature setting. Google's is set to a very high accuracy setting. So it seems a little more stuffy, whereas ChatGPT seems a little more like flowery and all that kind of stuff. But you can change those. But then you have something like Claude, which Claude is really conversational because of the way they trained it. They basically like use RLHF to train it to be more really conversational. So it's a much more conversational LLM. So depending on like what use case you want to use it for, you might choose different platforms. Like some of those platforms, the thing I like about Vertex and Mind Studio, actually both those, is that you have access to all of the different, well, not all, but most of the different LLMs. So I can be on Vertex AI by Google, and I can pull in Claude, or I can pull in Llama. And there's tons and tons of other large language models that are specialized in health, specialized in all these different things. And then you have pre-trained agents. You have pre-trained agents that you can literally pull in a pre-trained travel agent, like just for yourself. If you wanted to create a travel agent for yourself that's pre-trained, you can just pull that in, and it'll start answering your questions. It'll use Google Flights to pull up flights, hotels to pull up hotels, and do all this kind of stuff, which I had a lot of fun with. But so I'd say there's tons and tons of tools that kind of create a simple interface to do that. But you can also do it with, there's actually a great plugin for WordPress called I think it's AI Engine by, is it Meow Apps? I forget what their name.
Meow Apps. Yep.
Meow. Yeah. That was one of the first ones I utilized to integrate AI into WordPress, to leverage AI into websites. If we wanted to put it into websites we created, so that you can use image generation, you can create a chatbot or whatever. So there's some cool tools there too.
Yeah. There's the list goes on and on. I know last week we were chatting about Make, which has some interesting use cases of being able to pull in GPT agents specifically that you built, or, custom agents in a number of ways. Moonlit's another great no-code platform. It doesn't, the great thing is, for those that are a little less techy, it doesn't require as much knowledge of development and really the underlying knowledge of, computer science to really interact with these tools and build some cool stuff. We are already 15 minutes over. It looks like Umberto had another question. Maybe we could connect with him on LinkedIn after Kevin, or do you want to try to tackle one more right now before we wrap things up?
So that's a really long question. So I'm happy to take that off line. And I unfortunately have another meeting as well, but I'm happy to follow up with that one on LinkedIn later today.
Awesome. Yeah, Umberto, please connect with us on LinkedIn. Kevin will be glad to follow up and answer your questions. Also, feel free to drop us a chat. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions about how to integrate AI into your workflow, how to create and build digital assistants for your business. Amazing session. Thank you so much, Kevin. As we wrap up April's webinar, I'd just like to extend a big thank you to you for sharing your expert insights and strategies with us. And of course, a huge thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope you found this session as informative and inspiring as we did. Please remember to check out Kevin's book, Future-Proof Your Marketing, available online for more in-depth strategies and insights into thriving in the digital age. Also, keep an eye out for your emails and social media channels for updates on future digital marketing quarterly events from our group. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop us a line, contact us, connect with us on socials, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you once again for joining us, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for being such a great host, Michael. I appreciate it, man.
I do what I can do, Kevin.